Hello everybody and welcome back to another 20-minute strength exercise tutorial. Now today we are mastering the standing shoulder press. This is an exercise that obviously strengthens the shoulders, but it strengthens the triceps in the back of the arms as well. These muscles are really important when we're lifting things overhead, pushing objects or carrying objects just day to day. The great thing about the standing shoulder press is that it develops our core strength as well. This is because as soon as we push anything up and overhead, we're in a naturally more unstable position. So I'll be giving you a couple of tips and tricks as to how we can keep what's called a neutral spine to ensure that the core is engaged and doing the work to protect that spine and the lower back. To start with, I'll demonstrate the standing shoulder press with the resistance band as our standard variation, and then I'll just show you a couple of different ways that you might find useful. Before I grab my band, I just want to show you a couple of tips that's really going to help make this exercise feel strong and stable. And we're actually going to start at the feet. So you're going to come into a hips width stance with the toes facing ever so slightly out for a little bit of added stability. From there, I want you to bring a slight bend into the knees so we're not fully locking out at the joint. And then here's where that core stability is going to come in. I want you to engage the glutes ever so slightly, so we're just tucking that tailbone underneath our pelvis. A great way to imagine this is if your pelvis is a full bucket of water and you don't want any spilling out at the front here, you're just going to tuck that tailbone to make sure you level out the bucket. Okay? From here, you should feel, as well as the glutes engaged, the core just feels slightly more stable, and that's what we want for that brace position. The second cue I want to give you when it comes to what your core is doing in the standing shoulder press is I want you to think about depressing the rib cage down towards your pelvis. This, in combination with our tailbone tuck, will allow us to create a neutral spine position so that when we're pressing the weight overhead, the weight is actually centered over a nice stable core. Now let's get into the actual movement. You're going to grab your band and you're going to step on the band so that it's looped around your feet. Come back into that hips width position, slight bend in the knees, tailbone tucked and the rib cage depressed down. Now we're going to bring the band into what's called a front rack position so that the palms are facing towards the ceiling and your elbows are at about a 45-degree angle from your body. So they're not all the way tucked in, but they're not also all the way flared out to the side. From this position here, making sure that core is braced, we're going to press the band up overhead until we can reach full extension in the arms. Now we're aiming to press the band directly over our head rather than in front of us or behind us, just to make sure that that resistance is being fought in our strongest position. From here, you're going to slowly control the band to come back down into your front rack position before going again with a nice strong press up. Now, as you start to fatigue in this exercise, you might feel your rib cage start to flare. Maybe your tailbone becomes untucked and your butt sticks back a bit. A little bit of this rib flare is fine, but we just don't want too much. So if you feel like you are, refocus in on what the shoulders are doing or simply rest there. You're bound to improve over the weeks to come, so there's no rush. If this standing shoulder press is too difficult using the resistance band for you at the moment, we've got a couple of regressions we can use. First of all, we would recommend grabbing some household objects or dumbbells if you have them lying around and just coming into what's called a half kneeling position. So one knee down, the other foot up, and we're going to go for the exact same movement. So those weights are going to come into that front rack position. The elbows are going to be slightly more out to the side when you're using makeshift weights or dumbbells. We're going to make sure that pelvis is still tucked, the tailbone's tucked, the rib cage is depressed slightly down to maintain that neutral spine, and then we're just pressing the objects directly over our head again. Another regression, if for whatever reason that this doesn't suit you, we can actually use a chair. So find a sturdy chair with a back for extra support, and this really takes the core stability out of the movement. So you can just focus on what the shoulders are doing, coming into that overhead press position and slowly guiding the weight back down in a nice controlled fashion. Now, in terms of progressing the standing shoulder press, you can simply grab a resistance band that has more resistance or heavier objects or dumbbells. Once you can complete 3 sets comfortably, you know it's time to up the intensity. If you're someone who finds this exercise difficult or has limited shoulder mobility at the moment, then you can perform this exercise with just body weight, so without any weights, just getting used to that overhead position. This really frees up the shoulders if you're feeling any stiffness or tightness in that joint area, and then eventually you can progress on to a light resistance band or some dumbbells, potentially using one of the regress versions, the half kneeling or the seated position, for example. That's our standing shoulder press. Thank you all for watching. Make sure that you subscribe and follow us for more tutorials. And if you haven't already, grab your 20-minute strength workout program so you can get strong in just 3 20-minute workouts a week. Bye.